Hello, hello. This is JoAnna Brandi again, and welcome to part 2 of Return on Happiness. In today's session, we're going to talk about emotions and happiness, and I'm afraid I'm about to blow your mind. Here we go. Happiness is not a vague state of mind. It's a very specific, measurable physical state of the body. There's distinct brain activity, there's distinct heart rhythms, and a distinct body chemistry when you are in the state of happiness. Now, about 30 years ago, maybe give or take, this idea of a mind-body system didn't exist, except for a woman by the name of Dr. Candace Pert, who I've studied extensively. And Candace Pert discovered that we had molecules of emotion in our body, and that the emotional system was quite physical inside the body. And that's where we came up with this, that's where we began to understand the mind-body concept. Now, here we go. Every time you have a feeling or a thought or a feeling, because we're not really sure which one comes first, every time you have a feeling or thought, you make a chemical. So when you are thinking about something good, when you're having a positive thought, those thoughts and feelings of goodness create a set of chemicals we call the chemicals of calm. The chemicals of calm are serotonin, oxytocin, endorphins. We have specific chemicals that turn on the parasympathetic nervous system. Now, the parasympathetic nervous system is the healing system of our body. So when you fall down and scrape your knee, clean it off and put a Band-Aid on it, it heals by itself, because the parasympathetic nervous system is the system that tells the body, go heal this boo-boo, go heal this thing. When we have thoughts or feelings of negativity, especially if we hang on to them for more than 5 minutes, and I'll explain that as we go on, we're creating the chemicals of fear that turn on our sympathetic nervous system, which is the fight or flight nervous system. I think the most significant thing that anybody can learn about happiness is that the human brain isn't actually designed for happiness. The human brain is designed to keep us safe. And so we very instinctively go into fight or flight if we think we're being attacked. It seems that the hard drive of our brain has not been upgraded in about 250,000 years. So we're still programmed to react to anything we perceive as a threat as something dangerous. And that produces a whole different set of chemicals, cortisol compounds, and things like that, that are designed to get us out of danger fast. So everything that was going on in the middle of the body actually extends out into your limbs, so you can either fight or get the hell out of there. And then, because human beings are storytellers, we tell ourselves stories, and those stories can spiral up or spiral down. So when you are in an upward spiral and something good happens and you build on that good, and oh my goodness, and we're going to be so successful and things are going to happen well and everybody's going to pull together and the team is going to be spectacular, that's an upward spiral. When you go into a downward spiral, it's more like, oh my God, we screwed up. We're going to lose our best client. We lose our best client, we'll probably have to go bankrupt. You see I call that going down the rabbit hole. And many of us, me included, go down the rabbit hole fairly often. And if we don't catch ourselves before we go too deep, we're in trouble. So our stories are going to spiral our emotions, and our emotions are going to cause chemicals to happen in our body. You see, happiness is not a state of mind. It's a state of body-mind. Now, negative emotions are important, and I always have to give a little advertisement and space here for negative emotions, because they're really important as part of the human condition. They play an important role. They move us to change things. They ground us in reality. They get us out of danger really fast if we need to get out of danger fast. And they focus our attention, because while you are inside a negative emotion, portions of your brain actually shut down. So if in fact there was a cougar or something trying to jump out of a tree and get to you. You don't need your reasoning abilities. So your neocortex, the executive part of the brain, actually goes to sleep for a while. So the reticular activating system in the midbrain can focus on getting us out of danger fast. Do you ever hear the expression, anger makes us stupid? That's why. That's why. So they focus our attention on what we have to do in that moment. And they're a really important part of the human experience. The thing is, we have too many negative emotions. And in our culture today, there are way too many negative emotions. That means the crocodile brain is in charge. The ancient part of the brain takes over. Our survival system kicks in. And when that happens, it can cause stress. And when that happens, it can cause the fight, flight, freeze, or fawn response. It reduces cortisol. It affects our immunity. 5 minutes, I should say, any more than 5 minutes of anger can actually shut your immune system down for 6 to 8 hours. Because that's what those chemicals do. When your body is in fight or flight and you have to fight that animal or lift up that truck to get your kitty cat out from underneath it, you don't need all these other things. Your immune system and your digestive system and all those other systems, your endocrine system, they don't need to be in action then. What has to happen is that you have to be ready to fight or flee. So that all the blood that was very busy in the middle of your body taking care of those kinds of things rushes out to your extremities. So you can lift up the car to get the kitty cat out from underneath, or run out of the parking lot when you're scared at night. But the problem is it does shut down the thinking part of the brain. It does narrow our attention to ask the question, what's wrong? And it causes contraction. These are good things at some times, but bad things at other times. Now, the thing that blew my mind away completely when I started studying this is that we have a happiness set point. It's like an emotional thermostat. It's an adaptation response that keeps our happiness set point steady. So when you are looking for happiness out there, when you say, I'll be happy when I get the red car, I'll be happy when I get the red shoes, I'll be happy when I get the client, I'll be happy when I get the raise, you will be for about 2 months. Because after 2 months, your happiness set point is going to go right back down to where it was before. Unless you learn how to outsmart it, which I'm going to teach you. So we have this happiness set point. And our body, our body always likes that equanimity, right? We have a fever to kill the bugs, but then we want our fever to come back down to 98.6 or thereabouts. So this is very much the same thing. The thing that really blew my mind away is that 50% of this is genetic, and that explained my whole life. 50% of our happiness comes from our genetics. If you have more than one child, if you are part of a family that has siblings, you may have noticed that some babies pop out of the womb smiling, and some, like me unfortunately, cranky, colicky, and miserable. I was cute, but I kept my parents awake at night, and they didn't get much sleep. See, I was one of those babies. Genetically, I wasn't happy. And when you look at your own family and your own relationships, you'll recognize that. You may even recognize this in your own kids, right? You may have one that bounced out of the womb smiling, cutesy, slept all night, pooped when he was supposed to. And you may have had another, exactly the opposite. So 50% of our happiness is genetic. 40% of our happiness is coming from habitual thoughts, feelings, and actions, the things that are in your voluntary control, which we're going to talk about in just a minute, and 10% from our circumstances. Now, our circumstances could be whether or not we're married. That's an interesting statistic. It turns out that married people are happier than single people. But I haven't seen a lot of literature as to whether or not happy people get married more often than single people. So I don't know. Turns out where you live makes a difference to some degree. It turns out that whether or not you have faith makes a huge difference. And that is just simply faith in something larger than your circumstances. So it doesn't have to be religious, but it has to be faith in something larger. Faith in a purpose or a meaning. Even your health falls into those circumstances. There's been such interesting research done. There's been research done on, at one extreme, lottery winners, people that got sudden wealth, and at the other extreme, people who had terrible accidents and became paraplegic. Within about 1 year, the people that won the lottery are not any happier than they were when they got the check. In fact, many of them are miserable because they don't know how to handle the attention they got, and all the relatives that came out of the woodwork and wanted some of that money. And paraplegics, strangely enough, within about a year, get back to their biological happiness set point. So if they were happy and positive before, they have found their way back to that. And the other 40% we're going to talk about in a moment. Things that you can really control. You can control some of your circumstances, but not all of them. Things that you control. So what are some of the habits, thoughts, feelings, and actions in your voluntary control? Now, remember, last time we were together, I asked you to keep a piece of paper and a pen nearby, because this has got a little bit of activity here. But I'll get us started off. So one of the things in our control is our attitude, right? How we look at the world, that's within our control. Some of the habits, well, exercise is one. In fact, there's been so much study on exercise that at Duke University, they found that exercise is more potent than any antidepressive drug on the market. I found that very, very interesting. And Tal Ben-Shahar, who taught this at Harvard and now teaches a master's program in this, says that if you're not getting at least 30 minutes of exercise at least 3 times a week, you might as well be taking a depressant pill, because your body begins producing negative chemicals. So it's very, very important to your happiness to move your body and get some exercise. I mean, after all, that's biologically where we came from. We weren't born to sit at a desk, even though many of us sit here far too long. What other habits can you have? Let's see. Some people keep a gratitude journal, which is a wonderful habit. And throughout the course, I'll be talking about those kinds of things. Some people have a group of friends that makes them happy, that makes them laugh. They can go out and play. And more research is being done now as we're finding out we have a loneliness epidemic. And when you're alone and you feel lonely and you don't have friends and you're not producing the happy chemicals in your body, you get sick. So having a group of people that you hang out with is wonderful. Those of you who have hobbies, you get lost in a hobby. Once you start doing that, or maybe we have a lot of pickleball players here. I mean, they look really happy all the time until they get hurt, but that's another story. What else can you put on your list? What other things can you do? Having close friends, the people you hang out with are going to determine whether or not you're happy. If you hang out with a group of down people, trust me, you're going to get down. The foods you eat make a very big difference too. If you're eating a lot of sugar-laden foods or fat-laden foods, that's going to make the body work much harder, and there'll be less energy for those chemical compounds that make you happy. What other kinds of things are you going to put on that list? I hope you're making a list as we go along. Music is something that can make us soar. Anything that we can put our attention on that takes us away makes us happy. So keep this list up as we go along. Keep thinking of things you have in your voluntary control that can make you happier. There are certain activities that have been tested over and over again. Exercise being one, and meditation being the other. Meditation being the other. If you want to read a really good book, oh my goodness, I hope I remember this guy's name. He's a reporter that had a meltdown on camera. I'm embarrassed I can't remember his name, but I'll get back to you the next time with his name. He wrote a book called 10% Happier. He had an absolute meltdown on camera and decided he wanted to find out how he could change that, how he could reduce his stress level, and how he could get happier. And it's a wonderful read, and it really teaches you a lot about the biology of happiness and what are the kinds of things that you can do to create more happiness. He is teaching meditation these days and writing more books. But positive emotions, they cause an opening in our brain. So positive emotions make us smarter, because when we're in the state of positive emotion, the right hemisphere and the left hemisphere are talking to each other quite happily. They make us healthier, because when we are in the state of positive emotion, our body starts pumping out T cells. Now, T cells are what keeps the immune system strong. They make us more socially adept, because people like positive people. 9 out of 10 people are more productive in the presence of positive people. And now we know they make us wealthier, because people that have friends, people that have a large social system, get what they need because other people want to help. And you're more likely to achieve the upper levels of your potential when you're experiencing a positive emotion. So if you're a musician, you're going to be a better musician if you're in a positive mood. If you're a writer, you're going to write better. If you're a chef, you're going to cook better. If you're a pickleball player, you're going to play better pickleball. Actually, some of the studies they've done are very fascinating. They did a study with doctors, and when doctors were primed for a positive emotion, the diagnosis was 19% more accurate. Okay, you may be wondering, how do you prime a doctor for a positive emotion? You bring him a lollipop. I love some of these experiments they do in the field of positive psychology. But you're going to do better. You're going to be a faster runner if you're a runner. You're going to be a better parent if you're a parent, when you are primed for that positive. And it's easy to prime yourself for a positive emotion these days. Just pick up your phone and find a funny video and laugh. That's the way you can prime yourself for a positive emotion. Okay, come on, clicker. There we go. There are lots of positive emotions, and that's why I love this. And there's a great deal of research being done these days. I've just read 2 books on the subject of awe. Awe, amazing. Get outside, look at the stars, look at the sun, watch one of those eclipses, which we seem to keep happening. Oh, look at a mountain. Look at a ladybug. You can feel awe in many, many, many different ways, and it has a magnificent effect on the body. So there are many positive emotions. So when we talk about happiness, we're not talking about smiley face, yellow happiness kind of things. We're not talking about that. We're talking about all the wonderful positive emotions, inspiration, and there are quiet positive emotions too, like serenity, pride, inspiration. So think about all the ways you can feel positive. Last year, the world's largest well-being study was done, and it was done in collaboration with Indeed. So when I tell you large, it was huge. And the doctor involved, his name is Dinev, he found that happy employees are indeed more productive. Now, this was a large global study. And that workplace well-being not only makes you happy at work, it builds on job satisfaction. It gives you purpose. And by the way, the youngest generation in the workforce right now wants to be connected to purpose. I've got a lot of theories about that, but not going to talk about them right here. But they want to be connected to purpose, their own and the purpose of the organization and the larger purpose of the organization. And it reduces stress when you're in a company that has a lot of well-being. And we're going to be talking about that a lot. But this is a number that I just blew my mind. This is Dr. Emmanuel Dinev. 87% of leaders surveyed believe that investing in worker happiness can give them a competitive advantage, but only 35% make it a strategic priority. Are you willing to make happiness a strategic priority in your organization? I want you to sit with that, because it's so important. The youngest generation in the workplace is feeling a lot of burnout. And the antidote to burnout in the organization is a positive culture. When we create that kind of positive culture, people go home at the end of the day with energy left for the other things they love to do. We'll get into this another time, but I call this energy gains or energy drains. If you have a positive culture, there'll be energy gains during the day as people are allowed to work, allowed and encouraged to work in their strengths, to expand their capacity, to gently move out of their comfort zone rather than being yanked out of their comfort zone. But when managers are looking for what people do wrong instead of for what people do right, it sucks the energy right out of them. And they'll go home very unhappy and very often pass that unhappiness along to their family. So it's really important we take a look at, especially for the younger generations. We baby boomers, we just put up with anything, but not anymore. We can't do that anymore. We have to change the way we do business. We have to make sure that we're creating a nourishing environment for our people. And here's the good part. Positive culture is the ultimate competitive advantage. So if you've been looking for that competitive edge, you got it right here. Can you deliver wow experience? Do you want to deliver wow experiences to your customers? Of course you do. But you can't do that with a ho-hum culture. You just can't. So I believe when you build an optimistic, positive culture that's coherent, aligned, strong, and focused on creating positive experiences for all the stakeholders, you really created an organism that can outthink, outdelight, and outmove your competition. I'm JoAnna Brandi, Chief Happiness Officer, Chief Wellbeing Officer, an advocate for customer care and positive cultures, and I'd love to talk to you. Here's all my information. I'll be coming back as often as I can. I'm going to teach you this program in 20-minute or 25-minute increments, and I hope you're enjoying it. I'd love your feedback, and please connect with me on LinkedIn. Thanks.